For those of you who do not already know, QA StereoChecker offers outstanding precision and accuracy with unbeatable 200 micron resolution. With fast, consistent setup and a single setup and high-speed image acquisition, physicists can ensure that their CyberKnife machine is at peak performance every day. While originally designed specifically for CyberKnife QA to provide, again, that fast and filmless means to perform QA, it can also be used for other Linux systems to provide a quick analysis of single field QA, as well as high-resolution image capture in manual mode with DICOM image export. Performing efficient yet rigorous stereotactic QA on a daily basis helps ensure machine uptime to confidently treat cancer patients. Only QA StereoChecker has the speed, resolution, and field size to most efficiently perform QA. The software's single-click workflow makes therapists' morning easy while providing the quantitative results physicists need to ensure patient safety. Take the MLC picket fence test as an example. It is an accurate recommended daily test. However, it's only a subjective test without any recommended criteria to measure against. Whereas the garden fence test, recommended as a monthly QA test by Accuray, does in fact have test criteria, and error thresholds recommended by Accuray. Each of these tests takes the same amount of time to run on the machine, so why settle for qualitative when you can easily have quantifiable data running the garden fence test daily with QA StereoChecker? So let's go take a look at the software without further ado. So here we go. As you'll see, this is a web application software now. We make navigation throughout the software super simple by having the menu items from left to right according to the frequency with which you would do those. Daily QA, obviously daily, you're going to review that QA, hopefully daily, but sometimes if everything is passing, it may be less frequent than that. Trending, monthly QA, manual QA, and settings. So you'll notice over here, we'll start in daily QA, that there is a red asterisk here. That indicates to any other user who may log in that there is an active QA session currently running, and therefore certain items within the software will be locked. For instance, you can't set a baseline if you're in the middle of image acquisition, or you can't change your thresholds in the middle of doing your image acquisition session. So those may be locked, but other users may be looking at the review or trending tabs to see what data has been collected and take a look at those things. You'll notice once you click into the daily QA menu, you have machine tickets for the number of machines that you have. In this case, we have represented having 2 CyberKnifes at our location. You'll also see on the ticket that you have just a very quick summary. When was the last time QA was performed? You'll notice it says continue because we have not finalized this QA session, and who is the person logged in performing or who did perform the last QA session. So we're just going to go in here and continue. First thing you'll notice up here is we have our panel connected status, which is good to go. We have our list of daily QA tests listed here on the left. You'll also notice that I've already run a couple of tests and they give the summary status. If it is a test that requires a baseline, which would include the Iris batch, Iris Panda, Fixed Panda, if there isn't a baseline, you may not run the test because, of course, you can't analyze if you haven't acquired that baseline. Our MLC garden fence test hasn't been run, so we'll do that next. The Accuray picket fence test has, in fact, been acquired. It's good. Take a minute. But NA here is because it is still a qualitative test, which means we don't run metrics against it. So there isn't a status per se to reflect there. So why don't we go ahead and you'll see, all you have to do is select what test you want to run and click Start. And the software will give you the indication that it's initialized, ready for beam on. Beam is turned on, and it will acquire the images as delivered by the CyberKnife machine. Once those images are acquired, they are passed over to the application, the web application that we're looking at, and it's going to calculate all of the results and display all of that information for you. Not only is it displaying that information, but all of this information, image and metrics, all of the results are saved and trended automatically. All we had to do was start that test. So you get a summary table. Again, Accurate has 4 criteria, 2 based on per bank metrics, and the other 2 are individual leaf metrics. We represent any alerts or errors on individual leaf segments here in the schematic. And if you hover over a leaf, you will see what the expected current and deviation for that individual leaf actually is. And it was segment 5 at 0.46 that popped up an alert. Accurate does not have alerts. We have established alerts so that because we have all that trending, as soon as you see alerts, if they continue to trend that way, you can call in service outside of clinical hours instead of running your QA in the morning and you have a failure and that has to be investigated and fixed before you can continue on with patient treatments. So that shows you how that did. And again, we had one mean bank, the mean offset was an error, so it will show the worst score of a metric over here. You'll also notice we have 2 buttons, and the monthly QA works exactly the same. From here, we can choose to repeat a test, or we can simply finish off our QA. I'm going to call today's QA finished. You get an opportunity to make a test comment. So, and any test comment that is entered will be stored and available on the report and for viewing on review tickets. And also the next time I open the status tomorrow, there will be a test comment on that ticket to start it. So we'll finish off that QA. And what does that actually mean? So you'll notice it updated here. My comment that I added is now available. So tomorrow when people log in, they're going to see that as well. And it moves the data, the summary data, over to what we call our review tickets. So these review tickets are the daily summary. It's a dashboard summary of daily QA that has been performed, but not necessarily, well, has not been signed off on at this point. You notice you have 2 things. You can mark it as reviewed. You also have a tick box up here. So we'll go over to some old data that hasn't yet been signed off. You can mark as reviewed a single day, and again, have the opportunity to enter a comment, which will appear on the report as a reviewer comment. Or you can choose to mark off multiple days. Say that you're the physicist, you've been on vacation for a week, but all of the results for daily QA have passed wonderfully, so there was no urgency. When you get back, you can mark those as reviewed, and again, an opportunity to make any review comments needed. So we will mark those as reviewed, and that will remove those tickets from those that are available to be checked off by a physicist. The other thing, again, because remember what I said with that single click, not only did it analyze the image, but it also saved and trended that data. We have a comprehensive trending workspace. It starts with a dashboard view, which simply gives you a very quick rundown out of all the tests you've run. There's just a running total of alerts and errors. Since I rerun the same garden fence demo test in my database, that count will just go up every day that I do that. And it will also just let you know for the past year or for the monthly QA that everything has passed. Or if you haven't actually run any QA for the daily test in 30 days, in the monthly test in the past year, it'll also tell you that. By simply clicking on the arrow, you can expand that information, get a bit more detail. When was the last time QA was performed and how did that go? So clicking on any of these, which is wonderful because it's a web-based application or a locally hosted web application, anything that is underscored within the software is a link to that specific item, that test result, that trending data, that day's result, or that individual leaf result, or that iris result. So let's take a look at the irises, for example. Let's actually look at 3 months here so that we get a better view of what trending data looks like. You get the graphs, you also get a table. And again, this is an option where you get to see anything that's been reviewed. Shame on me, physicists. I haven't reviewed a lot of my QA. There will be a check mark. Should I wish to hide a data point because perhaps, for example, on this day, I didn't let my iris warm up enough, so I had some alerts and errors that day. So I can take a look at the actual day, or I can navigate back. And so I waited, let the iris warm up a bit more. I reran the test and everything passed. So I want to hide this data point. By doing that, it removes that data point from the graph. It is not removed. It is archived, if you will, but it won't be graphed because you reran it and you want to be able to show and report that, yes, we finally let it warm up enough and we have passing results. Again, these are buttons that are navigation to individual results for the different trending. You also have buttons up here for a PDF report or a CSV export. In this case, we're talking about a longitudinal report because we trended all of the data. You can have longitudinal reports on each and every test you run. You can export your CSV data in case you want to look at it in Excel or something else. Clicking again underscored as an individual day's results will take us back to that acquisition day. And each of these buttons up here means I can navigate between my different iris sizes. It also shows us over here all the other tests that were run that day. And again, each of these timestamps are underscored, which means I can move from one test to another test to actually look at those results. My difference image probably isn't showing through with much, so let's take a current look at what the current image is. I will note here that currently in the previous versions of the software, we only supported a fixed panda test. We've added the iris panda test, and we use different actual nodes for the iris panda test, which means that it is a more comprehensive test of your treatment delivery system, treatment localization system. We are actually testing 9 different nodes between the fixed and the iris versus just 4 or 5, depending on the model of your CyberKnife machine. And again, when we're looking within an individual daily QA session, again, single button here to click the daily report or to export a particular DICOM image from a daily test report. So very easy navigation throughout the entire software. We love it. We hope you love it as much as we do. Again, these are underscored here. So again, I can navigate, quickly toggle between a current image and a baseline image. So since we're still in the trending workspace, I'm going to use this back arrow. I'm going to take a look at the garden fence because there's a lot of data when you run a garden fence test. I'm again going to look at more data here. Now you'll notice we have 2 buttons at the top. That's because we trend the per bank data, and we trend the individual leaf data. So I'm going to take a look at the leaves. This first summary page looks obnoxious, but it's again letting you know the status of anything that you have. I happen to have an alert over here, an error over here. You can again toggle with these buttons. I can look at an individual date, or I can go specifically to the trending of a particular leaf pair. And when I look at that leaf pair, I have each of my segment results. If I want to zoom in on something in particular here to get a closer look at those details of where I might have my alerts or errors, you can do that down to a single one. You can also scroll over and get your data points this way. And you'll note once you're down to a single segment, you have your error levels displayed here, and you see we've surpassed that by just a tad. And again, you have your data, and you can go to the daily QA session by clicking on a button, but you have all of your results in tabular format as well as graphical format. Again, making your life very easy. And here we have, again, default is generally past 30 days, 3 months, past year, but you can also select a custom date range as needed, which may come up in an audit or a regulatory review, for example. The monthly QA functions, now that we have finished off that daily QA, notice that red asterisk went away, which means that we have the ability to go into another session and acquire data again. It's been released, it's available for use. You'll notice when we go to monthly QA, you have both LINAC and CyberKnife displayed here. Again, when was the last time I actually performed QA, and any comments that had been made on that QA session would have been displayed. So you'll see here, I haven't created baselines in a while. That's because this morning I didn't go in. But for anything that doesn't have a baseline, you need to have a baseline because all monthly tests are compared to a baseline image in order to provide your metrics for flatness, symmetry, penumbra, and field width. So this one hasn't been run, so we can go ahead and we can click Start That Test to acquire it, analyze it, display your results, save, and trend all that information for you. The nice thing we did in adding it to our monthly QA is that it takes it a while here. I'm on a remote desktop. I do apologize for that delay. But we do display both full inline and cross-line profiles for these individual beam analysis here. You get all that information with your alert and error thresholds. Why are you messing with me here? We'll go here. Not sure why that's doing that to me right now. I'm going to go back to trending. So we'll go into a monthly trending session, take a look at something that was done. Let's take a look at something here and go into a test over here. Easily navigating, looking at our inline and cross-line profiles. Okay, we'll go over here. Again, we're just going to go in here and we're going to finish this off so that we can go in and look at other items within the QA. Manual QA, again, that is whether it's a LINAC or a CyberKnife and you want to do some research or for some reason you want to combine multiple images and in order to look at those, you can acquire them as manual QA, and those are simply exported as DICOM images for you so that they can be analyzed elsewhere. Because again, manual QA, you're doing something sort of off the books or like I said, research purposes, which means you don't have an established baseline or established criteria to measure against. In the settings area, we keep everything as simple as possible to keep the workflow navigation as simple as possible. Very few fields are required, a clinic name, a logo should you want to have that on reports. For the machines, once you choose that you've got a CyberKnife and you select your collimator types, the daily tests will automatically be displayed and defaulted. If I don't have an iris, for example, then an iris panda and an iris badge test would simply not be available because, you don't have them, you're not going to test them. Why make a cluttered view on screen for things that you don't necessarily have. Monthly QA tests, again, those are single field analysis. We keep it super simple to add a test. Simply define how it is collimated, and save it, and you're good to go. Notice here it says no baseline, so accessing your baselines here, you can acquire a baseline very quickly. It's just, again, click of a button, it's going to acquire, it's going to analyze that image, it's going to display results, and you can choose whether to keep or discard it. I won't take the time to go through that now. There are default metrics. They default to Accuracy standard criteria for these various things. But of course, these are editable as long as you are not in a QA session. So perhaps you want to change these to 0.3 and to 0.2, whatever. Those are easily user editable as long as you have the right authorizations, which brings me to I did some changes, so we'll just cancel, and that will allow me to move into something else. Again, keep it simple to add a user. You need a display name, which is what will be displayed on screen to let other people know, for example, who, if it was you that performed the QA or signed off on the QA, your username may be different. You may choose to log in using your email password, or email login, whatever is standard for your clinic, whatever is easiest for you. A nice improvement to the software is that we offer multiple user types, not just therapists and physicists, but we want to support people from a single clinic, a single LINAC clinic where you might have one therapist, one physicist, to larger organizations that have multiple levels of physicists on staff. A resident is somebody you would want to give a physicist authorization to, which means they can perform the QA, but they're not the ones establishing baselines. An authorized physicist means that they can sign off on daily QA, and a physicist admin, of course, is establishing baseline, sign off on QA, doing all of this setting creation within the software. An administrator in our software is really an HR function. If your chief physicist leaves, then the HR person needs to archive that user and create the replacement once that person has been hired. But really, they are there for the clinic name and user names. Your panel, your preferences, which is really just how long do you want this website to be open while there's no mouse movement, no activity. It can be set up to 30 minutes because we realize that different sites have different rules about having open applications. So we'll have an automatic timeout in the software. So that really is the quick run through of the software for all of you to see. And we just want to go here. So on that note, that pretty much really does wrap up the presentation. Just a reminder that rigorous stereotactic QA matters. Speed and accuracy matter. Quantitative results matter. And yes, you can have all of those things using QA StereoChecker to perform your CyberKnife Daily QA, as well as individual beam evaluations, whether it's on CyberKnife, a traditional C-arm LINAC, or other system. And also, to summarize, StereoChecker's tremendous benefits to users. It's a single device setup to perform all of your QA tests. That's one trip into the vault. That saves you time. It's a single software application for automatic integrated image acquisition and analysis. That's important as well, and something that stands out with our product. We offer you filmless QA that fits easily into a therapist's morning routines. It is so streamlined with that single click. Not only do you start the test, but you automatically have your image analyzed, your results displayed, saved, and trended as well. Comprehensive trending and reporting, both DICOM and CSV exports as well. All of those single click buttons. So that brings me really truly to the end. So thanks ever so much, everybody. I really appreciate your time today. I know that everyone is busy, so go have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world.